common occurrence on set. This version of monkey is very popular, so I guess that...
Welcome to the mysteries of mythology. Sun Wukong, the Monkey King.
Take control over Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, one of the most prominent and
real-life Chinese mythology, centered around one of history's most famous mythological characters, the Monkey King,
also known as Sun Wukong.
Who the heck is Monkey King? There are literally 3 Monkey Kings in chapter 3 of the novel. Which one is it? Hi-oh, it says there in the set effect, Heaven's Equal. Why did you go and demote him back to a mere king? Sun Wukong has many names and titles. In the West, the most well-known seems to be Monkey King. Not only a strictly worse name than simply Sun Wukong, the character's actual name, it's not even the full translation of Mei Ho Wang, good-looking Monkey King. And what king is as powerful as heaven? In chapter 3, Sun Wukong had 47,000 monkeys calling him king. Not regular monkeys, mind you, they were more like monkey guais. And 72 Yao Guai kings, Yao Wang, in the mountain paying respect to him. And in chapter 4, another pair of Yao Wang then suggested he adopt the title Qi Tian Da Sheng. This is probably the most well-known title for most Han ethnics. Oh, Google Translate, why must you torture me so? Qi Tian, on the same level as heaven. Da Sheng, great sage. Great sage equal to heaven. Although it is a title that Wukong decided to give himself, even wreaking havoc in heaven and fighting at least equally to 100,000 soldiers from heaven in the process, Wukong did gain recognition for his abilities, especially after he agreed to go on the journey. Maybe not on the recognition that he really is equal to heaven, but Wukong was called Da Sheng, great sage, by many other characters of various status after taking on the task of serving as Tang San Zhang's disciple.
孙大圣，何时到此啊？
是孙大圣，你怎么有空到我这里来呀？
灵吉菩萨，这什么地方啊？哎呀，
孙大圣，
哎呀，这是什么地方啊？
这是我的小须弥山呐。
Note how the novel changes in addressing Wukong. In Book 1 of Anthony Yu's translation, covering chapters 1 to 25, there are 148 matches for Monkey King. In Book 2, chapters 26 to 50, 24 matches. Book 3, chapters 51 to 75, 14 matches. Book 4, chapters 76 to 100, 6 matches. Not only is the frequency diminishing, most of these matches are narrated by the author, as an additional thing to call Sun Wukong so you don't keep saying Great Sage in every sentence. In comparison, in Volume 1, Great Sage appears 282 times, Volume 2, 325 times, Volume 3, 415 times, and Volume 4, 239 times. Monkey King is something you call Sun Wukong if your impression of him is a mere monkey still staying in the mountains, literally stuck at chapter 1 of the story. In the story, Sun Wukong is a representation of the mind monkey, Xing Yuan, which is an animal metaphor for the lack of control for your thoughts, found in Chan Buddhist, Quanzhen Taoist, and Confucianist teachings. Narratively speaking, through each audio or chapter, we can see the monkeyness decrease in Sun Wukong to become a person who is more disciplined and gaining the status of a Buddha. And allegorically speaking, is how a person in real life can work towards enlightenment by controlling their emotions. In chapter 7, when an allegorical mind monkey is still not controlled and wreaking havoc, this poem in the novel tells us the character growth that Sun Wukong is to experience in the rest of the story. Understanding this poem can be at least a 20 minutes explanation, but the basic idea is that by controlling the monkey's mind and working together with the will, or otherwise emotions together with thoughts, can Wukong then understand his true nature and become a Buddha. The process described in the poem brings to mind Ming Xing Jian Xing, enlighten the mind and see the nature, a Buddhist phrase which is more searchable in English as Kensho. The true nature, as in the mind monkey, Sun Wukong's name, Wukong means enlightened to void or emptiness, which is again another reference to Buddhist concepts. In this case, the phrase 心即是空, 空即是色. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, from the Xin Jing, which is translated in English as the Heart Sutra, although Xin in Chinese is more like the mind and heart together. Literally, the first chapter of the 1592 novel tells us why the name is important. His very first mentor, Hu Ti Zu Shi, the patriarch sub-body, explained, "Our handsome monkey king looks like a Hu Sun," which is translated as Pygnolia eating monkey. As for which monkey species he looked like, anthropologist Francis D. Burton believes that the rhesus macaque is the best fit. So both Hu and Sun have the animal radical, but Hu Ti Zu Shi wanted to remove the animal radical, again reduce the monkeyness, control the mind monkey, and give him a surname from either of these two words. The word Hu is composed of two characters, Gu, meaning old, and Yue, meaning moon. The moon character is part of the yin word of the yin yang. The yin side is seen as the female side, thus putting together Gu Yue and age female is not ideal for reproduction. Sun, on the other hand, consists of Zi, which can mean boy, and Xiao, which means small. Small boy, a reference to the Sheng Tai or embryo of sagehood, which is not literally an embryo but a metaphor for attaining enlightenment in Chan Buddhism, or creating a spiritual doppelganger and achieving immortality in the internal alchemy for Taoism. Thus, Sun is the better surname here. Putting everything together, Sun Wukong, the mind monkey discarding its primal nature and awakening to emptiness. That is, enlightenment to become close to Buddha. That's the meaning behind Sun Wukong. So now you know the importance of calling someone by their name, as is the title of the goddamn character. But let's understand why the name Monkey King was adopted in the first place. I blame Arthur Waley, who did the first translation for Journey to the West in 1942. The worst part is, he actually understood what Sun Wukong meant and translated the name as aware of vacuity. He translated Guan Yin as Kuan Yin, Lang as Lang, Taizong as Taizong. So that means Wukong will be Wukong, right? Monkey. Do we call Simba lion? Why stop there? Let's call Hamlet man. Might as well call Hercules Bob. They even decided to change the name Journey to the West to Monkey. 西游记, literally West, Journey, and record or play. Even right before you start reading the story, the immediate emphasis is the journey. While in the Western sphere, the first thing that comes to mind is an individual. Right away, we see a kind of superhero mentality here. And to understand this, let's examine the introductions and forewords for some of these Western translations. In the introduction for Arthur Waley's translation, Hu Shi wrote in the last paragraph, freed from all kinds of allegorical interpretations by Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucianist commentators, Monkey is simply a book of good humor, profound nonsense, good-natured satire, and delightful entertainment. And we can also look at Julia Lovell's translation published in 2021, with the foreword written by Jin Luan Yang. In his foreword, he recalls his mother telling him Chinese folk tales before bedtime. From his impressions, he remembers the cool abilities of Sun Wukong, while trying to hurt me emotionally by making sure to emphasize the Monkey King. As Jin grew up, he moved on to other superheroes before becoming a graphic novelist himself. In his foreword, he compared Sun Wukong to the likes of Superman, Spider-Man, and Captain America, of which he notes the epic battles, struggles against the ego, friendship with a former foe, and how human Sun Wukong is. While this perspective is a legitimate though very narrow take on Journey to the West, from here we can see why Westerners continue to use the name Monkey King rather than Sun Wukong. Because to them, Monkey King is just another comic book hero. The fact that the original work literally references and hammers into the text or the Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucianist writings and teachings doesn't matter, or that much of the text also references other Chinese literature, or that the story of Journey to the West came from folklore, Chinese theatre, and earlier literature fictionalizing the monk Xuanzang's pilgrimage to seek out religious scriptures. The result of Journey to the West is not solely the imaginations of any individual. The narrow Western perspective is probably why people ask questions like, who is Wukong's wife? It's a question that somewhat makes sense for a monkey king. Kings have queens and superheroes often have a love interest. But a stupid-ass question for Wukong, which is a religious name given to him. Monks, at least well-respected ones in the context of 7th century China, aren't supposed to have girlfriends. It's one of the reasons why Zhu Bajie couldn't become a Buddha. To Westerners, Sun Wukong might as well just be a human who grew fur through a lab experiment. An intellectual property they can market and sell. Speaking of which, there is that Japanese adaptation that got a really popular English dub.
From it then came a stone monkey. The nature of monkey was irrepressible. I love to fight!
Born from an egg on a mountaintop.
I mean, I don't have to tell you why watching this hurts me physically, right? Now, this isn't to say that every East Asian who knows the story of Journey to the West doesn't have the same initial perspective of a Westerner. That Journey to the West is simply a cool story about a team of burdens carried by a monkey to slay demons and reach some sort of holy land. After all, that is kind of how children see the story. And because we live in a very westernized world, how much an East Asian realizes that Journey is something more depends on what they choose to interact with in their lives. Here I have 20 volumes of a children's book version of Journey to the West. For the most part, things have been simplified to the point where you could say that this is just a story about a superhero monkey. And in this condensed version, Wukong also meets Tang Sanzang roughly 25% of the entire story at volume 6. Examining Arthur Waley's and Julia Lovell's translation, that is roughly the same percentage. But in the 1592 novel/compilation, this portion of the story would probably be about 10 to 15% of the whole story, taking place at the start of chapter 14 out of 100 chapters. Still, these percentages don't mean that Western audiences have an equal understanding of Journey to the West as a Han ethnic or Chinese kid. For the scenario where Wukong was given a post as Pima Wen, the children's book gave the title of the volume refusing to be a horse caretaker, while in the text they put the full title of Pima Wen with the pronunciation. There is an intent to educate here, because there is actually a pun here. In Chinese folklore, the monkey is said to be able to ward off sickness from horses. Pi is to prevent, Ma still the same as horse, and Wen as in plague. Which is to say that there is that opportunity of using a children's story to then understand more about Chinese culture or festivals, if they choose to do so. But in Arthur Waley's translation, Bi Ma Wen is written in phonetically, although it's with a P instead of B, which is going to change the meaning to, I don't know, a caretaker who farts on the horses. And in Julia Lovell's translation, it's gone even more backwards with a literal translation of Imperial Groom. Han ethnic children will probably regularly see deities like Fu Lu Shou or Guan Yin Pusa, maybe in their homes, or maybe they have temples in their countries that have various gods that appear in Journey to the West. Depending on where they live, they might even have temples worshipping the Qi Tian Da Sheng or Da Sheng Fozu, Great Sage Buddha, Sun Wukong himself. Western audiences don't have that. Of course, cultural barriers in translations are something that cannot be avoided. Don't ever watch dubs, go for subtitles. But in condensing the material and removing the religious and philosophical allegories, you are removing culture. And even if you don't care one bit about that, sometimes even just by changing the name, you are changing the narrative. And I'm not saying that you should leave Bi Ma Wen as it is. It's not a huge portion of the story. But Sun Wukong? Come on. This degradation of culture and the narrative can be seen in the 2023 movie The Monkey King. So what's interesting about this movie is that Stephen Chow is listed as executive producer, probably just purely for marketing. Thing is, Stephen Chow is a widely respected actor and director known for his comedic films and actually showed some understanding of the 1592 work through somewhat of a comedic deconstruction in 3 different films. But strangely, his production company chose to be uncredited. Strange until you watch the movie. In a way, this being called Monkey King instead of having Wukong somewhere in the title is a blessing, because it really makes you question if the script writers had even read Wikipedia summaries. Certainly there are Asian names in the credits, but they are unmistakably Americans. In the movie, Monkey King was an outcast and his abilities were given by this RGB stick, without which he couldn't even gain the courage to fight a monster, know how to fight, fly, make clones,
I can? Really?
or basically do anything. There was a scene where he literally died, and it is only because of the RGB stick that he came back to life. This Monkey King is fucking useless. Despite this, the Monkey King decided to try to join the ranks in heaven through sheer arrogance, and although he had a companion, he didn't even bother to remember her name or even want to help her.
Who's Lynn?
I'm Lynn.
Oh, hey, Lynn.
It's hard to find anything nice to say about this Monkey King's personality. A complete, irredeemable bastard. Contrast this to the original 1592 novel. Wukong basically had no trouble integrating with the monkeys, and it is after 300 years of living a carefree life that he started to ponder about his own impermanence. He decided to discard a life of no worries for a chance at immortality. And he not only had to spend years travelling across seas on a wooden raft to find a master, upon entering the school, he had to gain the knowledge of transformations through his own merits and efforts. Though Wukong is arrogant, that trait was mostly after Buti Zushi kicked him out of the school, and Wukong had to return to his mountain of monkeys to rule them along with other Yao Guais. He had the abilities and underlings to reinforce that personality trait. The stick, Ru Yi Jing Gu Bang, although having the ability to shrink or enlarge, it's really just a stupidly heavy, roughly 8,000 kilograms useless pillar of steel. It is because Wukong is powerful and can lift the pillar that it is a suitable weapon. It is not some kind of Harry Potter magical relic or One Ring or Mjolnir that gives you power. There are such powerful relics in the story, in fact many of them, but it is not this one. And in the story, usually Wukong is a righteous person. It is only when he feels like he is wronged in some way that his personality becomes animal-like. In the half-month of being Pima Wen before understanding that he was duped into the post, Wukong actually did a good job. If you read the 1592 work, when Wukong isn't being playful or unable to control his emotions, you almost feel like Sun Wukong is the teacher of Tang San Zhang and not the other way around. Nearly everything in this 2023 movie is going to be a cure for low blood pressure if you compare it to the 1592 novel. But for analysis, The Monkey King reveals a lot of the Western perspective. It's the same points as the translations before, except somehow worse, focusing on the individual and having a superhero fetish. Now with some kind of strange new obsession that there is some magical relic that you can steal to gain godly powers. Colonization. British Museum. That's probably enough ranting. Even if you gain nothing from this video, at least start calling things or people by their proper names. In the case for Black Myth Wukong, doing so allows you to understand the law better. Like, non-able in chapter 3 is supposed to be 不能, letting you think of 悟能, Zhu Bajie's religious name. And this dragon clearly isn't red. The beard is. Anyway, the next video is going to be explaining the prerequisite knowledge required to appreciate Journey to the West and Black Myth Wukong on the deeper level, after which I can then begin to explain the lore in Black Myth.